Hello, Journey family and friends. Pastor John welcoming you to this week's Midweek Conversations. Hope you're well. Hope you stayed warm over the cold snap that we had here in Florida over the past, over the weekend in particular. And as I said on Sunday, a lot of places around our country had some really dangerous cold and some deadly conditions. And you may be watching from one of those areas. We hope you're well and are glad you're joining us. We wrapped up Daily Wisdom. All the beautiful thing about the YouTube channel and putting our content online is you can go back and you can watch it. So anytime you want to start Daily Wisdom, or if you have a friend, someone you want to reach out to, tell them about Daily Wisdom. We also have Daily Acts that we did February a year ago. So those are daily teachings, and you can just kind of follow along a chapter a day and then listening to the teaching. So proud of our team. They did a great job, wonderful job that they did teaching. You got to hear the different personalities of the different people we have on our team here, both pastors, residents, and ministry directors. Just really proud of them. And so many of you expressed your appreciation for Daily Wisdom, and we're glad that you took the time to take that Daily Wisdom journey with us. Today in Midweek Conversations, Pastor Dustin has a conversation with a special friend, a friend that Dustin and I met back in the fall of last year when we were with a gathering of other church leaders, kind of a similar size, like-minded churches. We met together up in Georgia, and we met Dave Meyer. And Dave is the executive pastor of the Hills Church, which is a multi-site church in Fort Worth, Texas. They'll tell you a little bit more about all that in the video. Dave's a great guy. So many similarities in our ministries and things that we learn from each other. And that's one of the things you need to know. We're always learning from other people. Dave really came over here just to spend some time with us to learn some things about our residence program, and he and Dustin's relationship has really developed, but we really learn a lot from them. And one of my favorite preachers that, quite honestly, a lot of the sermons that I've delivered here in the book of Revelation, on the book of Colossians, on the Why Talk About Race series, a lot of that material came from Rick Atchley, and Rick is the teaching minister of the Hills Church, and just so grateful for that ministry. And I know you're going to enjoy getting to know Dave, and so I'm going to turn it now to Pastor Dustin and Pastor Dave.
Thank you, Pastor John. It is good to be with everybody today for Midweek Conversation. We have a special guest with us, Pastor David Meyer. How are we doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man.
You good?
I'm doing great. So I'm excited to be here.
Tell everybody where you're from.
So I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm an executive minister at a church called the Hills, and we've got 3 different campuses, and so I'm coming to learn from this guy, and just got to meet him last fall with something that we were doing together in Atlanta, and was just incredibly impressed. I just think in the way that he thinks about leading people and ultimately wanting to see them develop. And that's an area that I need to grow in. And so I just called him up and said, can I come down and just hang with you? And he was like, come on. And so it's been great.
The cool thing with David is, and some of you know what this is like, there's just an instant kindred spirit. And I love that from the moment that we met. We've talked about this. There's just a spirit that you bring of just loving the Lord, the way you honor your church, the way you honor your pastor, and excited to have you for Midweek Conversation. So, you're from Texas. There's a lot of stereotypes.
We share a little bit of sophomore humor too.
We do have some of that. And that comes from baseball days.
Yes.
So, I played professional baseball in my dreams. However, my man over here, he did not just play in his dreams. He made it and played minor league ball with the Yankees organization, right?
Yeah. I didn't. It wasn't quite fulfillment of the whole dream. I wanted to be in the big leagues, but had a chance to play and played minor league ball in the Yankee organization. Played collegiately at the University of Kansas. So I got to play in the College World Series. That was a dream come true. Yeah,
man.
it was awesome. So, and then I started talking about my professional career, and I started talking about my roommates pretty quick because that's an indictment on my career. But roommates with Derek Jeter for a little while, and just Andy Pettit, Mariano Rivera, those were some of my contemporaries. And I loved it, but also, Dustin, I didn't follow Jesus then. And so, looking back, I do at times just kind of wonder what would have been like to play for him, because all I did was play for myself.
Yeah. And a lot of us, if not all of us, have been there where we lived for ourselves. And that's the beauty of the gospel, right? So he brings about a resurrection.
Absolutely.
And then you're going to run into Derek Jeter, and he's going to go, you're not the same. What happened? Yeah. And you're going to run into some of Andy Pettit's not going to say that because he's a believer.
He is a believer, strong believer.
And I've got a chance to meet him. He spoke at an event for us at another church. And so.
Hey, it's funny. Last month was my birthday. And so I turned 50, so it was kind of a big deal. And so at our all staff at our church, they had my college catcher. They called him and said, "Hey, awesome. Would you record a video?" And one of the things that he said was, "Didn't see the minister thing coming around in the 90s."
Didn't see that coming around.
Wasn't very godlike then. So Jeter would be the same way. Yeah, pretty funny.
Happy birthday. I just need to go on record for everybody listening, for you, and tell you, I don't want to be a two-face. I want to say this to your face. I hate the Yankees.
Okay. All right. That didn't hurt me at all. So,
I don't care if it's Derek Jeter. I'll tell Derek Jeter. I hate the Yankees.
He's not going to care either.
So I just need to let that be known. Yeah, he's a Marlins guy now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So I'm an Atlanta Braves who currently are national champs.
They are.
And so.
It was fun to watch.
One of the things that baseball, maybe it wasn't healthy for you in your faith, but sure was healthy for you in leadership and so many disciplines that I just know you and I, one of the things that we have a kindred spirit is for the Lord, for the local church, but also just leadership development and a heart we just believe that God deserves our best. And you have a heart for leadership, for reaching your best. And I mean, literally flew here just to try to grow, which shows your heart for being hungry and humble. And so just grateful for you to be here. One of the things that Pastor David he's at a church called The Hills. And we have some people that may not be familiar with The Hills. Then there's a lot of people that you go, you know what, that might sound familiar. Tell us a little bit why they would have heard your pastor, very well-known pastor and very incredible church. Tell us a little bit about your church and your pastor.
So Rick Atchley is our senior teaching minister, and in some circles he's a godfather of preaching because he's been doing it for so long and he's been doing it for so well and with such excellence. I met him right before I turned 29, and I learned more from him about Jesus in 6 weeks than I had the entirety of my life before. So what I would tell you, outside of my wife, this is the individual that the Lord has used to transform my life and to help me look more like Jesus. Now, there's still a lot of work left to be done, so he's got a lot of job security. But it's just he's an amazing man, and I'm just very, very, very grateful for him. And so I get to be the executive pastor there. And so he's our visionary, which means that I'm kind of the guy that has the honor of leading a team to execute it. And so we have a mission to make and grow followers of Jesus. And then we have a vision that we want to ask for nations and generations. And so that's kind of what where we're living right now. And
ask for nations and generations. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. You can steal it. It's in the Bible, so we stole it from somebody.
So some of y'all might go, Pastor Rick Atchley, that sounds familiar. You either heard him preach or you definitely have heard Pastor John. Our pastor, he loves to quote him. And so this is one of Pastor John's favorite preachers as well. And so I know we have people here at Journey that listen to him every week. And so really cool to see how our churches come together. And one of the ways that we met is both of us we believe in coaching, but not just to the point where we coach others, we want to be coached.
We need to be coached.
And so we have a mutual coach that has coached us, Tony Morgan, and then brought us together, and grateful for that. You mentioned a couple things I want to circle back with. Okay. One, you mentioned your wife.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about your family.
Yeah. So my wife, her name is Nola. We've been married a little over 20 years, so actually 21 years on May 4th. And then we've got a daughter. Her name is Reagan, and she is in 8th grade. And because she's in 8th grade, if I tell you too much about her, it will upset her, so I'm not going to do that. But I just, my wife, really early on in life, I wanted fire insurance. Like, I didn't want to go to hell, but I didn't want a Lord. And so I wanted to be Lord of my life. I wanted to do it the way that I wanted to do it. And when I met Nola, she's the one that really just showed me how beautiful the Lord is as my Lord. And so that's the beautiful thing. And so, there's a lot of great stories that unfortunately are a little bit embarrassing, to me because of where my head was at the time and so forth. But not only is she the love of my life, my best friend, but the Lord used her in amazing ways to totally transform me. And anyway, I miss her already. I've only been going
We
a
are
day.
two men that married up, my friend.
Absolutely.
And so,
Punt coverage has been way outkicked and
yes.
all those fun things. So
beautiful family. I think we just kind of had something. We shared a moment that you're not aware of.
Tell me.
When did you get married?
May 4th, 2001.
May 4th, 2002 right here.
No way. We're both. Did you know you were a Star Wars geek?
Did we just become best friends?
Maybe.
I think we did.
I think so too.
So here's the deal. True story. He asked if I'm a Star Wars geek because May 4th. I promise you this is a true story. I kept telling people we were getting married on Cinco de Mayo. and my wife, after she heard it probably a dozen times when we were engaged, she said, why do you keep telling people that? I was like, because we're getting married May 4th. She says, literally it means May 5th. Why do you, literally that's what it means. And I didn't know, and we had no concept. Star Wars wasn't as big, at least for me at that time. Yeah. So I didn't know it was May the 4th be with you. And now people ask that question a lot.
Dude, 10 years
so we are
after we got married.
anniversary buddies.
Yeah,
so
10 years after for us is I found out May the 4th be with you. I had no idea either. But I'm a Star Wars nerd. I mean, I love it, but I didn't know all that. Yeah. So that's hilarious.
So the other thing you mentioned is you're an executive pastor. And, in the church world, we get that, what that entails. Average person has no idea. What is really your role, executive pastor? My role is similar. I'm not an executive pastor. We don't currently have one, but I fulfill that same role. So kind of share unpack that a little bit.
So in Journey's context, what that means is everything that Pastor John doesn't want to do. So everything that Rick doesn't want to do, that's kind of what I do. That's a little bit tongue in cheek, but again, I am over all of our operations, and I'm also over all of our staff. And we align all of that for our mission towards the execution of what the vision is in front of us. And so if I would say that Rick is the visionary, and I would tell you one thing, this is a hot sports opinion, but casting vision is not a team sport. Mm-hmm. And so there is a visionary, but then a team comes behind, and then how does that vision, how does that dream become a reality? Yeah. And so I get to lead that out.
That's good. I love that. I've never heard that phrase like that. So casting vision is not a team sport and here's why, because you got one person casting vision, throwing the net that way, another one this way, another one that way. All of a sudden you're going in all kinds of different directions and the boat can't go forward.
That's right.
And so it's all coming underneath one umbrella and saying, okay, what's our lead pastor's vision and how can we all row in the same direction? And that's why we don't want to have ministries that are siloed.
That's correct.
So one of the things, you're probably going to have some people from back home watch this. I hope you do anyways. And this is one of the things I want you to know, everybody from the Hills. One, to his family, and then to Pastor Rick and everybody at the Hills. Every single time I talk to my brother here, every single time, he's so honoring of Pastor Rick, of the Hills, and of his family. Every time he speaks highly without me asking. He honors well. The way he just holds in high regard and high esteem, not just to honor well, about how genuinely his family has impacted him, how his pastor and church, how the Hills have impacted him. So I just want you to know when he's not even around you, he is gossiping in a good way. We call it reverse gossip. Okay. And so you're reverse gossiping. And I just want the people back home to know that you carry the light well. And one of the things, we had lunch today, and I told you one of the reasons why I like hanging out with you is because the way I would describe him is you have a love for Jesus that new believers have. Mm. And some of y'all are new believers and you're like, I don't know what that means. What that means to a new believer is when Jesus says you can walk on water, you start undoing your shoes and you're like, game on, let's go. But sometimes to seasoned believers, what we go is, yeah, I know I can walk on water, but isn't it cold? Yeah. And what about the wind? And we start out thinking instead of just taking the shoes off and going. And you have a love and a faith that is so transparent every time I talk to you, and I love it. And so one of the things that you decided to come down here, and I said, well, listen, if you're going to come to Florida, you're not coming for free. We're going to have you speak to our residents. Yeah. And then we also wanted you to speak to our staff. And so we had him. He came and spoke to our residents and to our staff. And we just want to say thank you. Very honored for you to take time, carve out time, and encouraged and blessed by it. And one of the things that you wanted to do is kind of have a little bit of time with the residents, because you guys, exciting phase, you guys are going to be launching a residency program potentially this year.
Yeah. So we talked about our vision. I said it's asked for nations and generations from a generational component. Lord willing, over the next 5 years, we'll have 10 residents that go through that. So in some ways, that number feels incredibly small. But then in other ways, when I'm hearing how you guys are doing it and the things that you're doing, I'm going, man, we've got a lot of work ultimately to get there, because it's not something that we're not trying to check a box. Mm-hmm. We're trying to impact the next generation of leaders that will go and lead for Jesus, lead for his mission, and have an impact within ministry that, quite honestly, we're just not necessarily sure where that's coming from now. And so instead of just kind of complaining of where are the good leaders coming from, how do we step in and provide a solution to that? One of the things you talked about, don't just bring a problem to me, but bring 3 different solutions and let's talk about it together. So this is what we're trying to do in the midst of that. And it's been great. It's been gold what you've been giving me, but I expect there's more that you're going to be giving.
That's great. Right. One of the things that we mutually share and talk about why we're passionate about the residency, some people maybe, I've heard, not necessarily from Journey, but cynical people say, well, you're just trying to get young people to do cheap labor. And that's not the case at all. The case is this. Every single week, I don't know about you, I get phone calls every single week, and the phone call goes like this. Hey, I've had 2 calls in the past week of 2 large churches looking for a campus pastor with a teaching ability. They're looking for somebody that can teach and be a campus pastor. And they ask me, do you know anybody? And every week I get asked, do you know anybody to this role? And I go through 3 rungs. 1, do I know anybody? Meaning, are they available? 2, are they healthy? Like, are they healthy? Is their soul healthy? Do they have healthy rhythms? Are they healthy? And then the third thing is, can they move the ball forward? Are they a leader? Can they move something from A to be? And the truth is, what we're saying is, by the time we get to these 3 questions, we don't know a lot of healthy, available leaders. And so what we're deciding is, instead of constantly saying no, let's create them.
Yeah, because I could be the 3rd call this week asking you that question. I mean, that's how
exactly
big
right.
The need is.
The massive need. And over the next 10 years, the amount of pastors that are going to be retiring and the holes that's going to open up. And it's not the seminary's job. It's not the college's job. It's not whatever organization's job to raise up men and women in ministry. It's the job of the local church to raise up men and women for the capital C church and for the lowercase c church. Absolutely. And one of the cool things here is we have a residency connection, because I was at 12 Stone. Yeah. One of my students became a resident at 12 Stone, and then he graduated the residency, and you hired him.
We did.
And that's just the way the capital C church. Our family pastor was a resident from 12 Stone and then came down here. Our current worship leader was a resident. Esther Velez was a resident, and now she's here and she's crushing it. So the residency is so powerful, and I'm excited for you over the next 10 years and how God's going to use that.
We're excited. It's funny as you're talking and I think about who's watching. I think there's at least an individual, maybe more, that there's just something stirring within you right now as you hear this residency. The Spirit is at work, and you're being called to that. Mm. And I've tried running from a call. It doesn't work very well. And so I would encourage you to pray about that, to talk with friends, talk to leaders in your life about it. But also, I think you're going to even see it start to impact the way that you read Scripture. And I think it's good, man. And I love that you guys are doing it. But I also think that there's somebody right now that's going to respond to that as well.
Awesome. So I love it. So one of the things is we've been able to talk for hours while you've been here, and so unfortunately we're gonna have to cut it off here. We only have 20 minutes,
I understand.
And so, but we could talk on and on, just because I love your heart. I love your heart for the Word, for the church. I love your heart for leadership and pouring into the next generation. And so we're grateful for you coming in and pouring into Journey. And so Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Midweek Conversation. We're going to turn it back to Pastor John as we conclude some concluding thoughts. But with that said, thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Pastor Dustin and Pastor Dave. So grateful for the relationship that we have with Dave and just the encouragement that we get from the Hills Church, and we pray they get some encouragement from us. Thank you for joining us for this week's Midweek Conversations. This Sunday, one of my buddies from years ago, I met Dave Stone when I was a freshman at Bible College. We both graduated from Cincinnati Bible College in the early 80s. Dave is going to be speaking this Sunday, special guest speaker. So grateful for him. Dave was the minister for many years at Southeast Christian Church, one of the largest Christian churches in America, in Louisville, Kentucky, for many years. And Dave is going to be with us this Sunday, 9:30 at 11:15 on site and online as well. So I hope you can join us this Sunday, and we hope it's a little warmer. As always, we are loving the journey.